Hi Google Plus. Guys asked me to show you how to make a string for a bow. I'm going to do the best I can for you. I have this one-arm jig here that I use. I've already measured out. I've decided I need my string for the hickory bow to be about 62 inches long. So I measured my jig from the outside of that post to the outside of this post to be 62 inches. And what I do is I have a little screw on my post here, and I tie this off on the first one, the one farthest to the right. I come around this way, and then I'm going to make 6 total wraps around the entire jig. Alright, I made my 6 rounds, and then I come over here, I go around the post, and then I have a screw here that I hook it around, and I also use a little Scotch tape to hold this tight. So we got Scotch tape holding that. This is held by the screw, and I can start doing my serving. And I adjust this so that I've got the entire width here, and I tighten it down. My jig is made from a steel 2x4 with 1x4s to slide in it, and I'm using wing nuts and bolts to hold it in place. I have my little serving jig here. This is built around the one that the Backyard Boyer showed on his site how to do. So it's made out of PVC and a bolt running through it to adjust the tension on it. I also use polypropylene twine on this, and I hook 2 layers on here. I pull that down, and I use a piece of tape to hold it in place. So I make 2 wraps of this. That gives me a little more body where it will knock on the bow. And then of course you do your serving. And I start down on this end and start my wraps. And I give it 20 to 25 wraps, and then I pull tight to secure the left side of it. So let's see how that works out. Alright, that worked out real well. And you can leave it on there for a little bit longer if you like, or you can cut it off, because I don't cut my serving until I make my loop, and then I go from my loop and about 8-9 inches down the string from the loop for the knock. So I'm not going to show you all this. I'm going to shut the camera off, and then when I get down to the end I'll show you what I do there. Alright, I've decided I wanted about a 3.5 inch loop to go around the nocks on the bow. So I measured this about 7.5 inches, and you're going to say, well, that doesn't come out to be 3.5. But you'll see what happens when I come around on the other side. I take this loose, of course, and I bring this over here and trim it off up close to where I've wrapped already, because we are finished with that part of it. And we also have the original line that we wrapped on, we have to also trim it back to the serving. So we get rid of that, and then it does the same thing on this side. We have the small one that we have to trim off close to the serving. And I always cut away from the serving so I don't cut through the string or the serving. And I lay the knife pretty much flat up against it and trim that excess off of there. And I'm using the Easy Braid fishing line. It's a Dyneema thread, braided thread. Alright, now on this I loosen this so I can move it, and I turn it to where the bolts catch down here. So I have a specific angle, and then I pull this so that I have about a ½ inch or so of overlap between the two served edges there. And then I pull this tight, tighten it up, and then I finish serving the rest of it by starting where I ended. Try to cover up as much of the excess twine and thread as I can. You can also pull it back and cover it a second time, which doesn't hurt a thing and makes it just a little bit stronger. And I am using upholstery thread on here to do the serving with. It works real well. It's very strong and it wraps extremely tight. Alright, now I'm just going to serve down to about that second arm there. And that got away from me somehow or other. This is going to take a few minutes. I'll stop the camera, finish down at the end, and then I'll show you how I tie it off. Okay, I've gotten down to the end where I'm going to tie it off. So what I do is I make a humongous loop, and then I go over. As you can see, I went over exactly the way I was winding it. And now I'm going to wind it over like I did before, except I'm going to go toward the end here instead of toward the center. So I'll do that 10 or 15 times, usually about 15. And since it's going to be tough for me to talk and count, whatever it comes out to be is what it's going to be. So I've made my loop, I'm making my backwards rounds, and then I pull out a length here to come back up against where I was winding, and then I just wind over top just like I was before. It winds here and unwinds over here so that you can do a final tie off. And I keep it pulled pretty tight and hold it in place. Now I'm at the end, and my mother, being a tailor, had this fancy little gadget here. It's a hook that I just hook on the end of the thread here in the loop, and then I can pull the whole thing up and pull it tight, and there you are. We have a finished serving for the knock. And then I cut that off, and the next process is loosen this back up, slide it forward a little bit, take this loop off here, come down to this other end. Make sure you keep the two braids separate. Put them on your one-arm bandit again. Pull it tight, line it up, tighten it down, and then you do the serving for the other knock on your bow. And then when you get that done, you do the serving in the middle. Now, on this side, I told you I put two. I do two on this one also. But when I do the serving for the arrow, I put 3 strands, and I tie them on a little farther than what I actually want to do the serving, and then I trim them back, and I use super glue on the serving itself on both ends and at the joint of the loop. So guys, I hope that helps. If you use the super glue, it'll never come loose unless you pull at it really, really hard. And I just use a little bit where I finished, a little bit in the loop where it comes together. I put the super glue. If you have any questions, put them in the discussion part of it, and I will see you later. Back, I got the string all done. You can see I put about 8 inches on the tips. I put just enough for the arrow, and I made the little knock point with a thread and a little bit of super glue. And I'm going to see if I can shoot this thing, so keep an eye on it. So you can see what it looks like. Alright, there you have it. Who's that look like? Thanks guys, see you later.